I'm Josh Klein.
And I'm Elise Hugh.
We host a podcast from Accenture called Built for Change.
Every part of every business is being reinvented right now. That means companies are facing brand new pressures to use fast evolving technologies and address shifting consumer expectations.
But with big changes come even bigger opportunities. We've talked with leaders from every corner of the business world to learn how they're harnessing change to totally reinvent their companies.
And how you can do it too.
Subscribe to Built for Change now so you don't miss an episode.
Make holiday gatherings more delicious at Whole Foods Market. Whether you're the host or the guest who aims to impress. Need some extra help? Pick up crowd-pleasing flatbreads that are ready to heat. Or build a lovely charcuterie board with sales on specialty cheeses and meats. Holiday wines and beers are also on sale, starting at $7.99. Host the perfect holiday party with Whole Foods Market. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
Welcome to Nature Backed podcast, where we are speaking with entrepreneurs and investors about the green future. My name is Tarmo Virki, and today my guest is Simo Ellilä. Welcome, Simo.
Thanks, Tarmo. Great to be here.
Tell us, what is PEKILO?
Well, PEKILO is it's a mycoprotein. So essentially, it's derived from fermentation of fungi. So we produce a whole fungal biomass through fermentation, dry it into a powder, and then you can use it just like you would any conventional plant protein, like soy protein or pea protein.
And you have built a company around it. How did it all begin?
So we're a rather unique biotech startup in the sense that, we're a 3-year-old company at this point, but the technology has a long history, actually more than 50 years. So I'm such a lazy innovator that I just decided to take an existing idea and try to repurpose that instead of reinventing the wheel. So basically, the roots of PEKILO and the whole PEKILO fermentation process go way back to all the way to the 1960s. We're of course a company based in Finland, and in Finland, one of the major parts of our economy is the forest sector. We have some of the world leading pulp and paper companies, a lot of pulp and paper plants. And back in the day, these companies used to have an issue. They used to produce a byproduct known as spent sulfite liquor. In the 1960s, they used to still dump this side stream into lakes and rivers. And that, of course, caused a lot of eutrophication in the waterways, and that was not acceptable anymore. And they had to find ways how to treat this byproduct. So there was a big R&D drive. The scientists realized that if you leave this stuff lying on the lab bench, what happens? Fungi start to grow. So fungi are nature's recyclers. They're rather remarkable in being able to degrade just about anything. And so that was kind of where it all began. They started researching, could they use fungi to treat this water, essentially. So the process was originally developed first and foremost to treat industrial byproduct stream, and the protein per se was just, you could say it was a byproduct of, or it was that was the secondary thing, like you were producing something new. And it was 12 years in R&D, scale up, piloting, the usual that goes into developing a tech in an industrial tech. And then they went so far that in 1975, they built the first industrial scale production plant where they produced up to 10,000 tons of this stuff a year from spent sulfite liquor. And the product was sold to pigs and chicken in the Finnish feed market. So there was, of course, a lot of research first on the safety of the product. A lot of animal testing before it was approved, and then we had 15 years of industrial operation. So we actually have 2 PEKILO factories in Finland back in those days. So it was quite a unique innovation, I have to say. How did Finnish paper engineers come up with this? Nothing like it had been done before, and hasn't really been done since. There's a lot of companies nowadays making mycoprotein, but the concept is quite different. They grow fungal biomass normally on sugar, and then they kind of make this kind of wet product that they would freeze and try to sell through the supermarket chains to to consumers. But the PEKILO process is really a biorefining process. How do you take an industrial side stream and do something with that? So it was a really unique innovation, and unfortunately they stopped producing it in the early 90s.
Do you know why? Was it the Finnish Great Economic Recession, or?
Yeah, that played a part. The acute reason was that the paper industry's chemistry changed. Essentially, they were no longer producing the side stream, so there was no more raw material to produce PEKILO. But then, yes, also the engineering company that had built these factories went bankrupt in the Great Depression in Finland in the early 90s. So yeah, that kind of just shelved the whole thing, and it was very effectively forgotten because myself and my co-founders were born in the 80s, and we studied biotech in Finland, and we had never heard of this thing. And well, we came across it in 2016, 17, around that time. And yeah, we just found it absolutely fascinating, this history, and started digging up everything we could about it. And it's been really interesting detective work, trying to find all the documentation that's still out there in different places, and contacting these people, these people who are like in their 70s, but many of them surprisingly sharp still, and trying to get all the information you can about the old process. And so that was basically the idea. The basic idea was, okay, let's try to revive this process. It's a unique innovation. There's still a lot of know-how, and then we were crunching the numbers because we were really focused since the beginning that this has to be profitable. This has to be a good business. And what we quickly saw is that, well, doing what they did back in the day and selling this to pigs and chicken is not a really good business. So, and also not necessarily the most future-proof option. So we realized that we have to try and go to a higher value market. So that was one part of the equation, and then the other one was that obviously the raw material had run out from the Finnish pulp and paper sector, so we needed to find other inputs. So that was how we got going. Essentially, we started figuring out, okay, what can we use as input in this process, and which market should we start targeting in terms of where we could make this really profitable. And that's what we've been doing the past couple of years. Essentially, we've been optimizing the process on lots of different industrial byproducts. Yeah, still from the forest industry. There are some plants that produce something suitable, but a big focus has been on the biofuels industry. So that's where my own background is. I used to work with the bioethanol industry in Brazil, and actually also in Finland. And I knew that there would be lots of suitable side streams from that industry, and also from the food, like general food and ag industry. There are several raw material streams that you can use in this process. And then we've been optimizing the process for these different inputs and seeing that we can get a stable quality of PEKILO protein produced, and then looking at what are the best applications. Actually, we've been kind of tailoring the product also for specific applications. So one is aquaculture. So fish feed, primarily salmon. There's salmon are carnivores, so unlike pigs and chicken, which eat just about anything. So the salmon feed is quite a lot more. The quality requirements are a lot higher, and the value is a lot higher than in these other feed types. So that's what been a big motivator. So there we partnered up with an industry-leading company called Skretting, and yeah, we've got great results. The fish, actually, just a couple of weeks back, we were able to release results from Norway that show that the salmon actually grew better eating our PEKILO mycoprotein than soy, which they're fed quite a lot these days. The fish grew better, they were healthier, so it looks really promising. Then the other higher value sector is pet food. So there we've been testing it with cats and dogs. That's also been promising. The animals really have liked the product, and those sectors we could access today from a regulatory perspective, because
I'm Josh Klein.
And I'm Elise Hugh.
We host a podcast from Accenture called Built for Change.
Every part of every business is being reinvented right now. That means companies are facing brand new pressures to use fast evolving technologies and address shifting consumer expectations.
But with big changes come even bigger opportunities. We've talked with leaders from every corner of the business world to learn how they're harnessing change to totally reinvent their companies.
And how you can do it too.
Subscribe to Built for Change now so you don't miss an episode.
What about humans? Is that a regulatory challenge or?
Correct. Yeah. So today we could sell to these higher value animal nutrition segments, aquafeed and pet food, because our product is now on the European Union's feed material catalog. Essentially, we went to the European regulators, told them like, look, here's a product. This was sold for 15 years. Here's all the data. It's safe and for animals, and that was it. It was really fast getting it in there. But for human consumption, it's a different story, right? In Europe is notorious for the stringency of food regulation, but we are planning to enter that space as well. So we had to modify the process a bit. We have to pay more attention to what kind of byproducts we would use. We're currently working, for instance, with the dairy industry. One of our owners is Valio, the local dairy company in Finland, and they have tons of like lactose from their dairy operations. It's actually really high quality. It's food grade completely, but it's not put to good use today. So we've been working on upcycling that into a food grade product. The process has required some tweaking to also get it to food grade spec, but we've done that, and hopefully within the next say 4 or 5 months, we're planning to file for that regulatory approval also for human use.
Make holiday gatherings more delicious at Whole Foods Market. Whether you're the host or the guest who aims to impress, need some extra help? Pick up crowd-pleasing flatbreads that are ready to heat, or build a lovely charcuterie board with sales on specialty cheeses and meats. Holiday wines and beers are also on sale, starting at $7.99. Host the perfect holiday party with Whole Foods Market. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
Rehearsals for the school play were really coming along.
Bigger smile, Mr. Squirrel?
Until a custodian accidentally threw away the costumes.
Oh no.
Everyone was rattled. Miss Garrity forgot how to play. And the Queen of the Hedgehogs almost quit.
Find a new queen!
But replacement costumes were shipped with FedEx. And with added peace of mind from picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
I mean, classically, the challenge of the products or the innovations which come from the laboratory is the commercialization. How has it gone for you guys? I mean, you're coming from the VTT, which is, how do you describe VTT? A great research institution of Finland, or?
Yeah, it's a national lab similar to, I guess, in many countries you have national labs.
But kind of taking the research to the market. I understand that, history has helped you guys a little bit, but today you still have to find the kind of new consumers to this.
Correct. Yeah. Well, in animal nutrition, it's rather straightforward. I mean, the volumes of protein going into aquaculture and pet food, they're huge, and the companies are really looking for alternatives that are more sustainable, but in general, they just need more new sources of protein because those sectors are growing fast and protein production is not really keeping up. So they're just eager to find new sources of protein, and of course they want to do their tests. I mean, with Skretting, it took us like, what would I say? Well over 2 years, 2.5 or 3 years to go through all the testing they wanted to be sure that it works as they would like it and it will work in their factories and so on. But from that point on, it's just, being able to deliver at a price point that makes it viable for them. Mm-hmm. In the human space, we're still looking at, frankly, we don't know. There's the whole aspect of consumer acceptance. The food companies seem really eager. So we've been surprised at how eager food companies have been to trial our product, even though we flag early on that, it doesn't have regulatory approval yet, but still people are really excited to test it and be ready for whenever that regulatory approval is there.
How is the process working? Do you have your own big factory these days? Have you set up one of those old factories that the spaces could be empty these days, right?
Yeah. So no, actually, currently we only have a pilot line, and the old factories, one was completely decommissioned, and the factory building was actually turned into an art space, which is quite nice if you're ever in Finland. Yeah. And the other one was sold to an enzyme company. And so the equipment is still there after 50 years. It's working, but it's in other use. So we have to start from scratch on the production. We have a pilot line. We raised 10 million in March, and we're currently designing our first larger scale factory. But that will still take, I would say, about 2 years to get built.
Somewhere in Finland, I assume.
Yeah, we hope to be able to announce before Christmas where that will be.
Cool, that's soon already.
Yeah.
The company today, you raised money earlier in the year. How many people you have these days?
I'm losing track. So we were 5 co-founders back in 2020. We grew very slowly, hiring a few people. We were up to 10 when we raised the funding round in March, and now we're up to about 20 people. Give or take.
Okay. Still all in Finland, or?
Yeah, all in Finland for now.
Okay. What's the kind of, one side is, of course, that, starting to work on the possible human use of the protein, but from the other side, what are the next milestones for you guys? One is the putting up the factory, clearly, of course. Anything else which is in the card? What keeping up in the night, or?
Yeah, the 2 big things that we raised the money for was getting this food approval and then starting to design a factory. So those are the big things. But we are also working on several cases where other companies would like to use our technology. So companies who have large volumes of byproduct streams, where it would then be more of a, let's say, licensing or joint venture play rather than us building our own plant. So we have a lot of those in the works at different stages. So those are also taking quite a lot of our time.
I assume licensing is especially more complex processes, then it becomes rather time consuming, I would expect.
Yeah.
From the growth side, now in Finland, setting up working on a factory, when will you grow out of Finland?
That's a good question. Well, as mentioned, if somebody decides to license this or we form a joint venture, it might be sooner than you think. But the reality is that this first factory will serve several purposes. It's close to our R&D, and it's going to be, you could say that it will be very integrally a part of our future R&D. But after that, we have to move out of Finland just because of the market size. Our market in terms of food products, in terms of pet food, everything is too small. So basically after that, we have to go abroad. And then looking at priorities, it's I would say it's really Europe and the US in the short term. Also, of course, in the food space, a lot of people are going to Singapore. That's something we're looking at because of the
license.
Yeah, exactly. So they're very welcoming to food tech and try to make the approval process as smooth as possible for new food products.
Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
Maruchan superfans are everywhere. From the busy moms who want to deliver maximum flavor in a flash to dorm room diners who want to put some slurp in their step. There are a ton of copycats you could use, but if you want to bless your bowl, there's only one true Maruchan. Whether you choose instant lunch, ramen bowls, yakisoba, or restaurant quality gold, Maruchan is the only ramen worth obsessing over. Smiles for all. Maruchan. See what all the ramen hype is about at maruchan.com.
What could we do in Europe to fix this challenge?
I'll have to try and be politically correct here, but
no need. I'm sure nobody from Brussels will listen.
Well, there's been quite a lot of frustration with EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority. We actually in Finland we were originally fighting to get it to be in Finland. We lost that battle to the Italians. Berlusconi pushed hard and got it to go to Parma. I don't want to say that influences how they work, but the problem. I mean, we've got to know some people. We're working with a lot of consultants and also had a few chats directly with the EFSA people. And I personally think it's a bureaucratic problem. So the scientists at EFSA, I'm sure they're very qualified. They're very. They're thorough. That's great. That's fine. But it's just about getting a transparent, simple to understand process in place that everybody can navigate. It feels like they've been shifting the goalposts all the time, and the applicants are just really confused about how the process goes, and then just they seem to be very focused on the bureaucracy rather than the science behind the safety. So
nothing wrong with the Italians, but I do have to share a good story from a friend of mine who was in Italy doing a passport renewal or the visa renewal or something like that. And he was telling how he was standing in the really, really hot office space for 3 hours in a queue. And when he got to the counter and presented his documents, he was told by the clerk, "Take the next counter, please. This is not for you." And when he started to yell at the clerk said, "We have run this country for 1,000 years. We know how it's done."
Yes. And, of course, it's a European body, EFSA, but the pronunciations from the Italian government have not been very encouraging. They've been saying that they want to ban lab-grown meat and all kinds of innovations. Like you don't need to innovate in food.
Exactly. In pizza, there is no pineapple, man.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I had an Italian colleague at BTT, and he once nicely said that you cannot have food tech in Italia because don't fix it if it ain't broken. Nobody can say that Italian food is bad.
Exactly. That's how it works. Any positive notes to wrap this discussion up? I think the stuff you guys are doing is definitely amazing. Something that's been highlighted, of course, a lot recently is the state of the VC market, and I guess especially on the alternative proteins, and I'm just it's going to be very interesting to see going forward how things develop, because alternative proteins, there's been a lot of discussion online. There's been calculations that an investment in alternative proteins has more than 10 times the impact of investments in let's say electric cars or whatever. But the space is in a tough spot. I mean, I think a lot of investors got burned and have moved along, but the drivers are so clear why we need these alternative proteins that it's going to be really interesting to see when this turns again and people realize that they need to be pushing here. A lot of I actually just wrote an opinion piece on this as well, and I think governments have done a great job at supporting basic research in Finland and in Europe and in the US, and enabling these startups to grow, but there needs to be a lot more effort from the government to get these things to go mainstream. And it's not just about promoting and subsidizing these new products, but it's looking at the playing field. Like the agricultural industry is so subsidized and so
geared towards the incumbents that something has to give if we want to really make a sustainability leap in the food chain.
Exactly. Making the sustainability leap in the food chain. That's a good headline for this podcast episode also.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks, Simo, for your time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tarmo. It was great to talk to you.
I could tell she was a dame who normally knew what she wanted.
I'm looking for something interesting.
But when it came to podcasts, she was lost in a fog. That's where I come in. The name's Guide, Podcast Guide. I'm the community search engine for podcasts, and I knew I could help her navigate the murky waters of podcasting and find the shows that fit her style.
Can you keep it down? A girl's trying to listen to a podcast here.
Head to www.podcastguide.us and let's solve this mystery together.
Are you a fan of classic cinema or a young person who wants to discover the best films of all time? Do these legendary movies still hold up?
On the Generation Film podcast, two guys who grew up when movies dominated the culture share a great film with a panel of young movie lovers and see how it plays for today's generation.
We discuss changes in storytelling styles, representation,
the making of each film, its initial reception, and how its meaning has changed over the years.
Join us as we explore cinema classics across generations on Generation Film.
Electric acid.